Joseph.
Oh, yep. Mm-hmm.
Hey, sorry, I was just wondering, did you get all those Phantom Knight card ideas done?
Yeah, of course. I can pitch them now to you if you want.
Okay.
Presenting the Phantom Knights of Crusty Boxers!
No!
The Phantom Knights of Sweaty Sock!
Joseph, you know your audience.
Yeah, you're right, bad idea. The Phantom Knight of Shitty Shirt!
Joseph, go put your shirt back on and come up with some better ideas.
Alright. Good afternoon, Jank enthusiasts. I'm MBT, and this is 10-Minute Testing. We're just about done with Phantom Rage. The set might not be the most meta-impactful, but it sure does have a lot of archetypes. Truly a godsend for the Jank attracted. Of course, a dive into Phantom Rage would be remiss without a look at Phantom Knights. So let's see what a few pieces of new support and the unbanned Bardish does for the archetype. Presenting Phantom Knights. Before we begin, if you're on the fence about subscribing, let me sweeten the pot for you. Click that little button below the video and I promise to unban the Phantom Knights of Rank Up Magic launch. So here's the list, and okay, we're not going to be able to get around this one. A significant amount of this list is cribbed from Yacine, who is one of the very few Yu-Gi-Oh! YouTubers who actually knows what they're doing. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck is an online strategy site for our mutual favorite card game. It's got a deck builder, card database, and a wealth of strategy articles. It's also where I post the Quarantine Series deck breakdowns, so give it a look at www.ygoprodeck.com. With that, let's peek into Phantom Knights. Phantom Knights were previously an archetype, and I'm using that phrase extremely loosely, of rank 3 and rank 4 enablers historically used as extenders in Burning Abyss, and then used again during the short period in time in which Block Dragon was a fun extender in a Link Spam deck, and not a recurring character in my nightmares. Despite their niche use, they garnered a fan following. Haunted Mansion-style ghouls and rank 3 monsters are cool, and as fans responded positively, Konami upped the ante with the Phantom Knights of Rusty Bardish and the current new wave of support. As of now, there's a critical mass of cards that make this deck powerful, adaptable, diverse, and resilient, a collection of qualities no other top deck can boast. That said, the largest issue with Phantom Knights has never been its ability to pop off, but has instead been its sequencing and difficulty to pilot. Like other combo decks, it does have linear lines, but unlike other combo decks, it has the ability to pivot between setups based on the matchup and interaction on a dime. Moving between Cherubini, Rusty Bardish, Breaksword, Raider's Knight, Levier, and Dragoon is no easy task, and most of your time with this deck should be spent getting a game sense for what you're doing when, not stressing over one of 3-star extenders. Again, if what you're hungry for is a greater understanding of when you should be turning the corner, and in what direction, I can't recommend Yacine's videos enough. So with that, let's get into the card by card. Firstly, the Phantom Knights. 3 Tier Scale, 3 Ragged Gloves, 3 Ancient Cloak, 3 Silent Boots, and 1 Stained Greaves. Next, the 3-star enablers, TGU, and a bunch of freebie one-ofs. Wielder, Jackalope, Chusinoko, Seer, and Graph, though you can experiment with things like Kagamucha Knight as well. For hand traps, we're on 3 Ash, 3 Ogre, and our Dragoon targets. For spells, we're on Red Eyes Fusion, Rhoda, Foolish Burial, and Phantom Force. For traps, we're on 3 Infip, 1 Wing, and 3 Fogblade. In the extra, we are on Dragoon, Zeus, Arc Rebellion, Dark Requiem, Rebellion, Raider's Wing, 2 Breaksword, 2 Levier. I know it seems weak, but it's integral to both combos and rebuildability. Access Code, Unicorn, Rusty Bardish, Cherubini, and Verte. So with that, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against Goki. This is a very interesting back and forth because both of our setup turns end up not mattering at all. Our opponent's going to lead with a copy of Suprex, we'll follow it up with an Infinite Impermanence and hope that the turn ends there. Unfortunately, they've drawn a Headbat, so they'll summon that, and then Link summon an Icehold. In this matchup, what you want to do is keep the rematch out of your opponent's hand, but there's really no way to guarantee that if they're resolving 2 Goki effects at once. Instead, we're going to have to ash the second effect of Icehold, which potentially prevents them from going into the Codebreaker stuff. It does so, and they'll activate Rematch in order to bring back Suprex and Ironclaw, Link summoning a Goki Powerload Ogre, and then equipping it with a Phoenix Blade. Not really sure what the point of that was. We should be able to do this. We're going to normal summon a copy of Ragged Gloves and special summon a Kagamucha Knight, but again, this could be any level 3 extender. We'll go from Cherubini into a copy of Graph into the graveyard, which triggers and summons a copy of Seer from deck. From here, we can Link summon a Phantom Knights of Rusty Bardish and trigger the effect of Seer to bring back the Cherubini. We'll activate Ragged Gloves' effect, mis-sequencing just a little bit. We didn't have the tier scale in earlier, which we likely wanted to do. We'll use Wing to bring back the tier scale, and then special summon a copy of Stained Greaves to go into Levier, then use Levier's effect to bring back this copy of Ragged Gloves. We'll go into Verte Anaconda, and as you can see, we missed a couple of effects because we have to keep the Fog Blade in hand just so the Dragoon is actually on. We'll proceed to battle phase, and thankfully we are able to get over power load. We do a fair amount of damage, but we're not necessarily close to lethal, and I don't know if we're going to be able to survive the next turn. Our opponent draws a rematch off the top. Okay, I negate the effect of Suprex because I don't want them to find the rematch, and I negate the Fireflint Lady afterwards for the same reason, only for it not to matter. They'll activate the graveyard effect of the Phoenix Blade and fire off the rematch, bringing back both the Suprex and the Iron Claw. From here, they can link summon a copy of Icehold and trigger the effect of Suprex and Iron Claw in sequence, getting another rematch for next turn, as well as a Headbat. They'll activate the effect of Headbat, summoning it to their side of the field, targeting the Suprex that is now negated, and then activate Icehold's effect, sending a DDR to bring a Guts from the deck. They'll go into a Linkuriboh, which triggers the effect of Guts, getting them an Octo Stretch. They'll go into an IP Masquerena and trigger the effect of Headbat as well, before making a Phantom Knights of Rusty Bardish of their own. They're going to set an Ancient Cloak, which they will banish to get a copy of Shade Brigandine. They'll special summon a Silent Boots, then activate Shade Brigandine, which enables them to summon not only a Nightmare Unicorn, spinning our copy of Levier, but also a Link Spider and an Access Code Talker. That Access Code is going to be very problematic, not because it can destroy our entire board, remember, Dragoon is immune, but because it can walk over it. They will reborn the Power Load Ogre and equip the Phoenix Blade to the right target this time. They get over our Dragoon, but this is not lethal. Okay, we should be able to do this. At end step, we'll activate the graveyard effect of Fog Blade, bringing back the Rusty Bardish, and activating the effect of Tier Scale in sequence as well. Let's get to work. We draw a Chusinoko off the top, a fantastic rip. We'll lead with the effect of Rusty Bardish. Afterwards, we're going to activate the effect of Tier Scale, pitching this copy of Chusinoko, and then summoning it back via its own effect. We'll overlay for Breaksword, triggering the effect of Rusty Bardish. They will shotgun a Fog Blade on this Phantom Knights of Breaksword. We're going to bring back this copy of Stained Greaves, and activate the graveyard effect of Ragged Gloves, and then trigger the effect of Ancient Cloak as well. That allows us to summon a Silent Boots, and another copy of Breaksword, which we can use to destroy both itself and this copy of Divine Sword Phoenix Blade, so we can summon back 2 Phantom Knights from the graveyard, switching them to 4s. From here, we're going to get the rank up spell before going to Raider's Knight. No rank up needed. Let's go into Arc Rebellion Xyz Dragon at 14,000 attack. That OTKs even through Octo Stretch. Our second match is up against Zodiac, and this game showcases just how adept Phantom Knights is at playing through interaction. Our opponent's going first. They're going to lead with a copy of Tanky. That's going to get a Rat Pier to hand, and as they summon it, we have to fire off the Ash Blossom. I literally can't beat Megaclops. They'll go into a copy of Chakanine and a copy of Drident before setting 3 and passing turn. For turn, we draw a copy of Silent Boots. We're going to normal summon a copy of Ragged Gloves, Special Wielder, and a Silent Boots before making a Cherubini, at which point our opponent will shotgun the Drident, but oh no, we can just send the Wielder to the graveyard instead. We'll activate Cherubini's effect, and then activate Graf's effect to bring back Seer, before activating Ragged Gloves' effect and eating an Ash Blossom. No big deal. From this position, we can make Rusty Bardish. We'll activate Seer's effect to bring back this copy of Cherubini and Rusty Bardish's effect, which eats an infinite impermanence. Again, this is fine. We can activate Silent Boots' graveyard effect, get another copy of Fogblade, proceed to the battle phase, eat the combo from our opponent as they equip it with a copy of Ram, and then walk over it with the Rusty Bardish. We'll set 2 pieces of interaction through 3 pieces of interaction from our opponent, and then Ash Blossom their Pot of Avarice. Whew, thank God we drew that. They're going to activate Foolish Burial to send a copy of Tri-Brigade Naval, whose effect they will trigger to get a copy of Fractar. They'll normal summon the copy of Fractar and attempt to attack our copy of Cherubini, to which I will chain a copy of Fogblade. For turn, we draw, an infinite impermanence. Well, it doesn't really matter what we draw because the hard ones per turns are what's going to win this for us. We'll activate the effect of Cherubini and the effect of Rusty Bardish, then activate the graveyard effect of Ragged Gloves to send an Ancient Cloak, summoning back the Tier Scale and then activating Ancient Cloak to get a copy of Silent Boots. We'll special the Silent Boots and activate the effect of Tier Scale to send a copy of Wing before going into a Breaksword. We'll trigger the effect of Rusty Bardish, destroying our opponent's last remaining monster and destroying their last remaining spell and trap with Breaksword's effect, so we can bring back 2 monsters now at level 4 to overlay for a copy of Raider's Knight. We'll activate Raider's Knight's effect to overlay for a copy of Arc Rebellion, then we'll activate the graveyard effect of Fogblade to bring back this copy of Breaksword and summon back this copy of Silent Boots with Wing as well. That enables a Verte Anaconda, whose effect we will activate to summon a Dragoon. At this point, we're just styling, but no harm, no foul. We'll get in for well over lethal. So it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's on Invoked Dogmatica, and unfortunately for them, we are going first. We're going to lead with a copy of Tour Guide from the Underworld, who eats an infinite impermanence. No big deal, we can fire off this Foolish Burial in order to send a Stained Greaves to the graveyard, then activate its effect to summon the Ragged Gloves from hand. From here we can make a Cherubini, and this is a little crusty. I want to get the Tier Scale into the graveyard over the Burning Abyss monsters because we don't yet have it in rotation. We'll activate the graveyard effect of Tier Scale, summoning it back as we banish this copy of Ragged Gloves, then it's on field effect in order to send a copy of Ancient Cloak. We'll go into a Rusty Bardish, sending a Silent Boots, and then activate 2 Phantom Knights traps in graveyard to get 2 level 3 monsters. We'll overlay for Breaksword Breaksword, then activate the effect of Rusty Bardish. We are bringing these monsters back, but not to make a rank 4, just so they don't get banished when they are sent to the graveyard. We'll go into a Verte Anaconda, then activate its effect in order to send Red Eyes Fusion, and end on Dragoon. We'll activate the graveyard effect of Silent Boot so we can get a Fogblade to hand, and the graveyard effect of Ancient Cloak to get another copy of Tier Scale before passing back to our opponent. Our opponent draws an A-lister. They're going to lead with a Forbidden Droplet. I guess I'll negate that. Tier Scale and graveyard is just as good as on field, and they'll special summon a copy of Ecclesia, which eats a Fogblade. From this position, there's not a lot they can do. They'll pass back to us. We will, I suppose, activate the effect of Dragoon. They'll activate Draconic Prison of Snow and Sky, to which we will negate. We'll go ahead and dome their Ecclesia for 15 before doming the A-lister for an additional 1,000, and yeah, this is just lethal. No reason to style here. Let's go to game 2. So it's time for game 2, and God, I hate staring down trap decks. Okay, our opponent's going to start with a copy of Ecclesia. They'll get a punishment, set 4, and pass. Good luck. For turn, we draw a copy of Tier Scale. We will activate Reinforcement of the Army for a Stained Greaves. We'll normal summon a copy of Tier Scale and pitch the Stained Greaves in order to send a Fogblade, then activate Stained Greaves effect to summon an Ancient Cloak. We'll go to Cherubini after setting a card in case they attempt to pop it. They'll activate Ice Dragon's Prison. Cherubini's a fairy, but they really just want to negate the effect of the Graph. We'll activate the graveyard effect of this Fogblade to bring back Tier Scale before going into Rusty Bardish, which unfortunately prompts the Dragma punishment. No big deal, we can activate Foolish Burial to send a copy of Ragged Gloves, and then activate Phantom Knight's Wing to bring back this copy of Ancient Cloak. We'll overlay for a copy of Breaksword, trying to hit these back rows. We'll go ahead and eat one of them before activating the graveyard effect of Breaksword and summoning 2 monsters to our side of the field, which will turn into a Verte Anaconda. We'll activate its effect, and there's the other Forbidden Droplet. Okay, no big deal. By sending the Graph to the graveyard, we can activate its effect to bring back the Seer, whose effect will trigger as it's sent to the graveyard via its own effect to get the Cherubini back. We'll activate the graveyard effect of Silent Boots and the graveyard effect of Tier Scale, bringing it back so we can go into a Nightmare Unicorn, sending this copy of Ecclesia back into the deck, and then activating the effect of Ancient Cloak, and going into an Access Code Talker. It's not really negates, but it is damage against a control deck, which is still pretty good. We'll pass back to our opponent, who at end step will trigger the effect of Titanclad for an Ecclesia, and Ecclesia's effect for a Fleur-de-Lis. No big deal, we still do have interaction. For turn, they draw a magical Meltdown, but thank Dragma Punishment, they are still locked from it. They'll activate the effect of Fleur-de-Lis, and then negate the effect of our Access Code Talker. In battle phase, we'll go ahead and negate the effect of their Fleur-de-Lis, preventing them from walking over it. On our turn, we're going to lead with a copy of Access Code Talker. We're going to use its effect to destroy the Ecclesia, normal summon a Tier Scale, use its effect pitching the Ragged Gloves to send a Fogblade, and then Fogblade's effect to bring back Ragged Gloves, getting a 3,000 attack Breaksword, at which point our opponent will concede. So we're back with the deck, and wow! Wasn't expecting that, but between the performance here and the week 1 finish in PPG, I guess we have to consider if this is going to be an actual metagame contender. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1, I can't stress this enough, the deck plays really well through stuff. Obviously, that's a huge advantage when half the decks pack 12 negates going first and every hand trap in the known universe going second. 2, Dragoon really ties the deck together. If nothing else, the Phantom Knights are a great way to ensure some stuff remains on board, and then whatever's left can easily become a Verte Anaconda. And 3, its mechanisms for interaction are extremely varied. This is a deck that doesn't die to Dark Ruler or Forbidden Droplet. Fogblades are fantastic insurance should all your monsters get negated. And the cons. 1, it's really hard to play. Phantom Knights have never been a breeze, but you could easily get choice paralysis when you have so many options. Just look at what I did. 2, it's got a debilitating weakness to Nibiru specifically. Certainly, people have started to shave the big rocky boy from main decks, but if he ever comes back, that's bad news for the PKs. And 3, it doesn't have a satisfying out to Buster Lock. This is the only point of interaction it can't adapt around, and it's a rough one. All in all, I expect this deck to transform radically from what you see here as good duelists take it to the lab. But for all the Orcist pilots who found that their adaptable and resilient deck played too many Garnets to be worth it anymore, I just might have found your next obsession. So that's that. As always, thanks to my patrons, Dominic Ernst, Hakuo, Alex Perea, Candyman, Chibi Gohan, Crispy, Dimsum05, Frosty, James Oakes, King Magic Ruler, Lavender Lemonade, Mike Carlotti, Rocky Hernandez, Rose Lapine, Sir Tachyon, Space Dandy 1993, Tyler Slacks, Tyrese Biggums IV, Adam Trevino, Adrian Bra, Emita Elefandi, LG Smarcy Kavicius, Andrew Benson, Andrew Furuya, Andrew Horseman Linderman, Angry Bed, Apex Systems, Billy Williams, Blake Root, Black, Candide, Chad Bortz, Chess Prime, Chorps Away, CG Alex, Control for the Win, Dan the Man Hoban, Darcy Taves, Dylan Conley, Dive Missile, Donnie Fillerup, Distrin, Emperor Stove, Ernesto Ibarra, Fighting Fangwong, FUTR, Gavin Charlikowski, Gilgabless, Innercrest, Isaac Jackson, Jalen Ya, Jared Lorman, Jason Leonard, Jeff Leonard, Jose Luis Cortez, Juliet Shulian, Corey Hess, Kurakaze, Lawrence, Lucas Geertis, Lucky Number 5, Lucas Arizzo Hansen, Mac the Moderate, Meadow Edits, Mezzo Emrys, Michael Oskavark, Miyun Arashi, Nick Extreme 99, Nix Dolores, Picnic Blasted, Pro FP2, Pro Yugi Dad, Samsoon, Safik Ashley, Seeker, Sean Deal, Second, Shine 55, Standards Objective, Swinkles, This Machine 237, TJ Steakhouse, Yuri's Best, Zach Janchewski, Zach McKee, and Yukie. If you like what you see, please consider subscribing. And if you want to be part of the process, consider following me on Twitch as well. See you next time.